The Bridgestone Canadian Superbike Championship has returned to the iconic fast and flowing asphalt of Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, a track bathed in history which most recently includes a 3-race sweep by the Van Dolder home team BMW of Ben Young, who last August, en route to his 3rd Canada Cup, swept a triple. With a 4th championship in sight here in round number 5, it's all about the big picture, but Young is never one to shy away from a challenge or an energetic challenger. Let out the clutch and tuck in tight. It's time to see the Superbikes blaze at CTMP. Marshall Ferguson alongside Colin Fraser as we are getting set for race number 10 of 12 here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park in the Bridgestone Canadian Superbike Championship season. It is brought to you by Pace Law Fallen Rider Support Team. And in Colin, in race number 9, we had Alex Dumas go on to victory on his Ducati. Extremely impressive, but there were battles up and down throughout the grid.
3rd weekend for the V4 Ducati with Dumas on board. He unretired to ride that, rode a Suzuki here a year ago. Everybody's interested in the performance of that motorcycle. It took 3 weekends and he won. Terrific battle at the front, but you're right, there was lots of other things to pay attention to. Jordan Szoke was part of the discussion for quite some time. Right behind was his brand new teammate Collins, who was in a terrific battle with TV Tommy. So lots going on, and even further back, David McKay was in that group for a while, so lots to watch.
A wet practice. Alex Dumas fastest this morning, getting set to go here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park as you see Tommy Cassis with the rain suit on, battling through the conditions.
Here we see the qualifying order. Qualify happened on Friday afternoon in a rain, so if the times look about 10 seconds off, you are right to think that. Garand was the one who came out on top, and the reason is that our points leader, Ben Young, winds up at the end of the 3rd row, having not taken part in the 2nd and crucial qualifying session.
Climbed his way all the way into 2nd in race number 9. This one will be very different than that, though, based on the conditions, as we see Paul McDonnell sitting here on row number 5, and on row 6, Charles Aubry. Maverick Sear in the fold as well, with Corey Canfield in between those two as we get set to go racing at CTMP.
Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, one of the most famous, if not the single most famous road race track in Canada. Scene of many international events, very, very challenging, pretty straightforward layout, but blind, complicated corners and a back straight that isn't straight.
There's a lot of different ways to get around this place as you see the damp conditions that they'll have to battle through in the GP Bikes Pro Superbike feature class. Let's go down to our Bridgestone pit reporter, Sarah Said.
Thanks, Marshall. Race 9 of the Bridgestone CSBK Championship was perhaps one of the most entertaining and closest of the season, as Alex Dumas beat defending champion Ben Young by just a hair, claiming his first victory of the year. Young ultimately finished 0.07 of a second shy at the line behind Dumas, which is the 5th closest margin of victory in Pro Superbike history. But that wasn't the only history that was made in this victory. Dumas' win on his Economy Lube Ducati machinery scored Ducati's first Superbike triumph in nearly 30 years. Still, today's rain and a wet track bring new challenges to the rider and his top competitors. Dumas' team says that faced with this weather, they opted for rain front and slick back tires, same as Samuel Guérin, while Ben Young and his team chose wet tires. Back to you.
Interesting, Sarah. We'll follow up on all things tire choice as the race goes on. For now, we look to the Apex Cycle starting lights powered by Honda. They dig in. We're full throttle, or as much as we can be in the wet here at CTMP. Down the hill, Tommy Cassis out of nowhere leads Trevor Daly.
Back of the 2nd row, TV Tommy comes right on through. Daly had a terrible start last year, but this time looking good. Jordan Szoke fading back. I think he might have gone with that mixed tire choice as well as the ones that Sarah described.
Cassis with a tremendous pass into 5th on Torrin Collins in yesterday's race number 9 as the wide line fading around the edge there is Sam Garand. Ben Young is all the way up into 3rd by the time we reach 3rd turn, and now it's Trevor Daly taking over the lead from Cassis.
It's amazing there. Daly aggressive on the move on the entrance, and then picking the bike up and being far more careful when he got into the turn where he had to commit, not knowing how wet it was. And you can see really mixed track conditions. In places it's almost dry, but the puddles are a huge problem.
The one-speed Suzuki of Trevor Daly out in front. We saw him wobbling around in wet conditions at Grand Bend earlier this season when he won his lone GP Bikes Pro Superbike feature class race of the season. And now they'll head down the back straight for the first time as number 2, Sam Garand, falling back, and up the hill comes David McKay as well, looking for 4th.
Yeah, very interesting battle there, and we think Garand has that mixed tire choice. McKay steaming by, but that's caused a pretty big gap for these top 3 to get clear.
They've really separated themselves here as Ben Young up into 2nd spot, passing Tommy Cassis as they look to complete lap number 1. And you can see some of the pooling as this water trying its best to drain off. And now we've got a crash in behind. And who was that?
I was about to ask you, where's Dumas? And I think we just found out he didn't make it all the way through 8, so lots of drama. There was a big puddle in 8 and then another one in 9 that was obviously a huge distraction. I don't think Dumas is going to come back from that.
Oh, another moment there for Trevor Daly as he hit a bit of a slick spot, and we go looking at Alex Dumas on the Economy Lube Ducati, and he went full Superman over the top here, Colin.
Yeah, that was heading into turn 8. There you saw as the bike spun, we saw Dumas heading for the straw bales, and that is scary. And then look in the distance there, that's Sam Garand trying to get under McDonald and then flicking himself off the top. That's 2 dramatic high sides by 2 Quebec City area residents. And what's remarkable is I think Garand picked this thing back up, that you would have a crash like that. You're okay, the bike's okay, but that's a bike that isn't okay. Dumas had a look and didn't like what he saw.
Dumas checking his leathers out there, but not looking at the bike, so he is out of this race, as yesterday he was the one that went to victory. Jordan Szoke down in 10th right now, and that is Garand back on the bike. There's the BMW M1000RR of Garand. Somehow he's climbed back on, got the bike going. Nothing short of drama here in the early stages of race number 10 in the GP Bikes Pro Superbike feature class, with Trevor Daly out in front. Portions of the Bridgestone Canadian Superbike Championship are brought to you in part by Pace Law Firm's Fallen Rider Support Team, Importations Thibault, and BS Battery. Closed captioning for the Bridgestone Canadian Superbike Championship is brought to you in part by AIM Insurance, MotorcycleCourse.com, EBC Brakes and Clutches, and Lifen. Lap number 4 of 18 here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Trevor Daly leads out in front of Ben Young. Tommy Cass is holding it down in 3rd position right now, with David McKay in 4th. And another Honda, Brian Wursdahl, right there in 5th spot right now, as he's trying to make sure that the Hondas get a pair up in the top 5. We'll see if he can hold on in these damp conditions.
Watching our leaders heading into Moss Corner, and of course these were our Daytona Bridgestone Suzuki teammates. Daly on his Suzuki 1000 Superbike, Ben Young back on his regular BMW. You can really get a sense of the track. Most of it's dry, but the back straight isn't, and right now that's going to help you save your tires. Now Sam Garand, who we're watching right now, he's barely into the points, but climbing back up through the order after quite a dramatic fall. Got to wonder what the condition of his motorcycle is, but he's making very good time with an unusual tire choice. Remember, 2 races ago, he used a dramatic tire choice at AMP to score the win.
And you can hear him even getting out of the throttle there, going down through turn 2. He's in 14th spot right now. Ben Young is in 2nd. If it finishes this way, Ben Young will win the Bridgestone CSBK Championship here in the GP Bikes Pro Superbike feature class. Garand would love to try and climb his way up, but he needs the track to dry out as the tires become more interesting the longer this track stays dry.
Back on board with Ben Young, our championship leader. Remember, he does not know that Garand or Dumas fell. It would make sense that he assumes they're very close by behind him.
Ben Young going down the hill here in turn number 2 as he tries to track down Trevor Daly. It's been a very different season for Ben Young from 2023. Here he is on his opportunity to get another number 1 plate.
Yeah, last year was quite a different situation. As we spoke before, the first 2 championships I won was from start to finish. And last year I didn't have the upper hand. So the championship was never mine to win. It just ended up being that way. It presented itself because of the hard work and determination that we had, and we came out on top. But anything can happen. DNFs happen, mechanicals, arise, and you just need to put your head down and keep doing your own thing and not think too much about it. Thankfully, I'm in a position that I've won a few of these. To me, it's not the end of the world if you don't. It's just go have fun riding your bike, and if you can do it, you get it done.
The maturity of the Van Dolder's home team BMW rider Ben Young on full display as we go on board, and mature riding necessary when you're battling not just in the rain but also against Trevor Daley, who is very willing to take risks, Colin.
Lots of variables here. Daley is a challenge, but he is riding very smoothly, and Ben's probably trying to figure out what the plan is and what Daley's true pace is. But yeah, you're right, Daley less dramatic than usual. Got to remember too that with the championship up for grabs like that, this season has had a lot of rainy conditions, and arguably a couple of races Ben might have been able to win if he was running just to win. But from the outset, we've been talking about championships with him because it just seemed clear with Dumas retiring that Young was our favorite, and Daley has made things quite a bit more interesting this year, but not a regular on the season, so not in points contention.
We see the time split between these two up in first place, Daley and Young. And you also have to have admiration for the fact we have to remember here in race number 10 that Ben Young did qualify in 9th position because of a crash in Q2. He climbed his way up very, very quickly in race number 9. He's done it again here, once again, up near the front.
Yeah, last lap, Young was about 3/10 off Daley. He has closed it up again, but it just shows the accordion nature of how things play, because you cut through a puddle, you cool the tires a bit, then on the next dry part, the tire works a little bit better. Remember, the tires aren't meant to be run on a dry track, so this is hurting the tires all the time, and that will become far more dramatic an issue as the race progresses, unless it starts to rain again.
Of course, which you never know here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, as things can change so quickly. As right now, Sebastian Hothaza has made his way up into 5th position in behind David McKay. Tommy Cassis just on the backside of these two who are battling up front for first.
Let's talk about Hothaza for a moment. He is a Grand Bend regular normally in the middleweight division. This is his first national on the Yamaha R1, and he is showing really well.
More from CTMP next. We have reached the midway point of race number 10 here in the Bridgestone CSBK, round number 5 at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Trevor Daley leads out in front of Ben Young, Tommy Cassis, David McKay, Sebastian Hothaza still holding down that 5th position as we make our way down the Andretti Straight and look backwards a little bit here. Brian Wursdal in a battle against Sebastian Hothaza and Paul McDonald, as these three really the closest on track right now. But up at the top of turn number 2, Jordan Szoke not that far behind with Connor Campbell in a battle as well between a couple of Kawasaki teammates.
So these three are definitely feeling their way around and trying to use each other as kind of a guide. But the problem is Szoke, of course, went with that oddball tire choice, a wet front and a slick rear. He's done this before to considerable advantage, and he is coming at a ton, and when he arrives here, it will not be pretty.
As they climb their way up into 5A, a deceiving climb on camera as they make their way towards the back straight, and just in behind there is the 101 plate of Jordan Szoke on that CKM Kawasaki, and like a bat out of heck, he's flying around the corner.
Not comfortable with the language, but yes, you got to admire Jordan Szoke's perseverance, and it's hard to explain how difficult it is to try and figure out how to nurse that tire until you get to the conditions we're at now when you actually have a physical advantage, because of course everybody else's rear tire is going off from the abuse, the overheating, because they weren't meant to run on a dry track. Jordan's tire is thrilled with these conditions.
And he's going to make the most of it, with his experience here around Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. As we go back to the front and see Trevor Daley still in control of things over Ben Young, as the gap has really not changed between these two all that much.
Yeah, and I think Young's weighing it up, and the problem is Daley is riding very smoothly, very well, making good decisions, well aware of where the track is wet, where he can cool the tires, where he has to start using what's left of the traction on those big Bridgestones, and I don't know if Young thinks it's worth the risk. Now remember, he's thinking about a championship, and there, I don't know if you saw Young's bike weaving just a bit. That's what happens when those rain tires are starting to overheat. They're squirming around on those tread blocks, and of course right now he'd rather be on a slick, but it's not really an option he has.
You can really see at the beginning of the Andretti Straight here at Mosport how much that straightaway is drying out. As it is Jordan Szoke actually jumping up into 7th spot over Sebastian Hothaza right now. So Szoke is on the move, as you would expect with his tire choice.
You can see these two looking for the wet spots, and so far Daly is doing a good job of leading, and Young is looking. He's a little closer than he has been, but the move is not going to be straightforward, and as I said, Daly just isn't making mistakes. He's pushing hard. Both of them are starting to show that rear tire squirm, and that's something they know is coming. They're used to riding that way. No one enjoys it, but it's not the end of the world. There you can see a slightly different line from Young.
And wow, look at Szoke again. Totally different line than Paul McDonald up ahead of him and Brian Wursdal on that Honda CBR 1000 RR-R. The Fireblade battling as Szoke taking all sorts of looks around on the inside.
BMW passing Honda, Kawasaki in third. Here comes Szoke. You can bet it's going to happen soon.
They head down the front straight here, and it looks like Szoke will indeed pick up 6th position over Brian Wursdal, who gets dropped down a couple of spots, and it won't take very long, you'd have to think, for Szoke to gain the grip, climbing up into turn number 2 right here and go and get himself. Paul McDonald is looking down through 2. He goes on the inside and will take away 5th position.
McDonald, a part of history there. He was passed by Jordan Szoke on the entry of 2. Many famous people have been picked off at the top of that hill. This onboard from Szoke really shows how he's comfortable on that tight line that most people struggle with. Great effort by McDonald, who jokes he's hardly ever raced in the rain, but given the way the Canadian Series has gone the last year and a half, he's been out in the rain a whole bunch.
He hasn't had much of a choice based on the conditions that they've battled through over the last season and a half here in Bridgestone CSBK, as Szoke sits in 5th and David McKay the next up the road, but a significant split there as Sam Grant has jumped from 14th all the way into 10th call.
You see Szoke there looking for the puddles, so he's also being careful with his tire. Look at how quickly he's setting sail, and he's opened this group up. They were using each other to set the pace. Now they have a new benchmark.
Trevor Daly leads out in front, but it's the CKM Kawasaki of Jordan Szoke on the charge here at CTMP. Portions of the Bridgestone Canadian Superbike Championship are brought to you in part by Pace Law Firm's Fallen Rider Support Team, Importations Thibault, and BS Battery. Closing stages here in race number 10 at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Trevor Daly leads out in front of Ben Young. Tommy Cass is sitting in 3rd right now. Tremendous if he can hold that position in the Yamaha Motor Canada R1, as he is in control with a little bit of breathing room ahead of David McKay, who's in 4th, and Jordan Szoke continues to charge as we even see Maverick Sear in 10th right now. Sam Grant up to 7th. The dry tires have come to life here, Colin.
Yeah, we watched through the bottom of 2 where it's still fairly wet. Now we're on board with Szoke, who's been making one of those charges with a wet front and a dry rear, and he has made very, very good time pulling away from McDonald. And look at what's going on in front of Szoke. That's David McKay on full wets on his Honda, and I think he might be the next sitting non-duck.
Absolutely, he is right there in front of Szoke, who has locked his eyes on David McKay on that ODH Snow City Honda. And we'll see whether he can get him going into maybe turn 4 or 5, as Jordan continuing to churn out excellent lap times, Colin. And what kind of pace is he laying down right now?
Well, it's ridiculous. He just did a 28.7 on our last lap. The leaders did a 31.8, so that's an awful lot of difference. But I think the important thing is now that he's behind McKay, he's going to really turn up the wick, and I don't think McKay can do much about it. Got to remember that Jordan did a similar thing 4 years ago and battled Garant and ended up winning, so this is not a shock that he has the judgment to pull this off.
Incredible pace here from Szoke down the back straight, and the proud new papa of twin girls, Reese and Murphy. That'll make them proud looking back just a few short weeks ago. Jordan adding to his family, and I'm sure they'll be looking back at this one years later as Trevor Daly continues to lead out in front of Ben Young for 1st.
Daly just set his fastest lap of the race at a 1:31.52, about a 10th faster than Young. So I think Young is in conservation mode here. And of course, Garant's situation, charging up to 6th following the Szoke trail, means that the championship could still be decided at the next round.
Let's go down and check in with our Bridgestone pit reporter, Sarah Said.
I'm here with Pat Barnes, who's part of Trevor Daly's crew. Pat, can you tell us a little bit about how Trevor's doing right now?
Well, we're running out front. Ben's sitting right behind us. We're far enough out of 3rd place. We believe Ben's just watching Trevor for the time, but Trevor's knows the game too, so it's going to be a last lap thing for those two if nothing else changes. But we're past halfway. If someone throws it in the weeds, we get a flag, we're done. So it'll happen the last lap or 2 if everything keeps going.
Is this what you expected heading into the race?
Yeah, it's good. No, we didn't expect to be doing well. It's because it's a wet race we're doing a little better. We don't have the speed of the Beamers quite that we'd like to, so we like these conditions.
Thank you.
It's like Grand Bend again.
And when he says Grand Bend again, he's talking about our national round 2 where the daily double occurred. And I'm not sure if that's a betting thing or a Tim Hortons thing, but nonetheless, it was 2 wins in one day for Trevor Daly. And he is en route for something similar right now with a lap to go.
Yeah, it is the final lap. The white flag is out here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. One more time around the track that Trevor Daly has had so much success on here. And race number 10, as it looks like Ben Young might have backed out of this thing a little bit, or maybe Daly's just trying to ride it home as hard as he can.
You see some sideways moments. Trevor's continuing to push that Bridgestone rear rain tire, and it's probably had about all it can take, as one of the stickers on the side of his bike is also exhausted from this effort.
Incredible to see his ability to harness the power from this one-speed Suzuki while it wobbles around and trying to make sure that whatever the cook level is on that tire, that it's not going to be completely worn out, as one more time up into turn number 5 as they head towards the back straight.
One more trip up the back straight for Trevor Daly here, and you can see a little bit of a wheelie there. He's probably keeping an eye on his electronic options. You can see just a bit of sideways activity coming out of 5C, and as I said, the tires are definitely past their sell-off date, but they have done a fantastic job of keeping these 2 upright and setting the pace at the front.
And not just battling against Ben Young, but injury as well, as Trevor's left hand significantly damaged from a crash earlier on in this weekend. And so that means that he is going to have to bring it home against all kinds of adversity. But he loves these conditions. There's no doubt about that. It's a double dose of Daly here, his second victory in the GP Bikes Pro Superbike feature class in 2024.
Got to be an emotional moment to win at CTMP, to beat Ben Young at CTMP, and it was a strong performance right from the very start. Very seldom do you get to do that, particularly over a strong field. Yeah, there was some attrition, and our winner from yesterday, Dumas, didn't complete the first lap. Garant, who could have been a factor, ended up charging through, as did Jordan Szoke, and they were kind of the story of this race.
Took him so long to get that first career Superbike victory here in the pro category, and now he gets to enjoy his second at a place that he will absolutely be celebrated.
Good effort for the Suzuki rider. He has been flying the Suzuki flag for some time. Last year, Dumas was the top Suzuki guy, but now it falls to Trevor Daly to set the GSXR pace.
Daly wins ahead of Young, Cassis, Szoke, McCase. How about Samuel Grant setting the fastest lap of the entire race with a 1:27.5?
Bunch of consistent laps for Garant, who really rode into the conditions just the way he did 2 races ago at Atlantic Motorsport Park.
Very entertaining race in difficult conditions. Let's hear from our winner, Trevor Daly.
All right, Trevor, congratulations on the win. It was a big one here with difficult weather conditions. How do you feel?
Yeah, I feel great, making a habit of these doubles, we'll see at the next one. But yeah, tricky conditions, obviously. I'd say potentially I had a bit of a leg up having run the sport bike race earlier. The pavement was actually really difficult to judge what was dry, what was damp, just between the patches and the different colors. So just incredible. Can't thank everybody involved, enough, all the fans, all my team, and this one's for John Cornwell. It's his birthday today, and he's been a big supporter of mine since the first race I came to, first time I rode a motorcycle. So this one's for him.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Trevor Daly with his second win this season. What does it mean for Ben Young in the championship, Colin?
Well, Ben Young has already won the BS Batteries award for the best overall qualifying performance. If he does that again at Shannonville, he will take the title. Then we look at the manufacturer's points, and here's a shock. BMW have already clinched that. So very strong year for Garant, and particularly Ben Young, our reigning number 1.
An outstanding effort from the BMW riders, but Tommy Cassis on the podium alongside Ben Young, and to the top step for the second time this season, Trevor Daly on the one-speed Suzuki.